Good morning, St. Paul. St. Paul's with no apostrophe. I did a bit of research and I found the story encouraging about people wanting to hold on to the story and truth from which they come. I want to, before I begin, offer a sincere thank you to your pastor, Matt Fitzgerald. He and I go way back. Even though I didn't remember we went way back, we shared a classroom in Yale Divinity School. So I'm very happy to be here, and I want to thank you so much for the kind and generous invitation. I want also to recognize the choir, and I want to say how good you all were. You really were very, very good. And I know you hear that all the time. That's why you're just giving me this teenage look like, yeah, oh, okay. But really, you were good. I want to thank the chancel choir. Y'all were pretty good. Now, they were good. So I want to thank you, too, and let you know how much you encouraged my heart. Would you all join me in prayer? Merciful, loving God, we ask that a word that might be preached today might touch someone's heart, that someone might be strengthened and encouraged and given hope to go on just a little while longer. Allow your word, allow your spirit to give us the strength to face these days ahead. Amen. I got an email about the service today, and it was an email that was outlining what I was going to be doing after service by someone who knows you all well and who loves you very much. And he had one line in the email. Now, I got this email on Friday, and I didn't do much with it other than just scan it. But the words said, there are a lot of people who are hurting today. There are a lot of people who are hurting today. So I read it, and that wouldn't go anywhere in my mind, even in the midst of traveling back to the East Coast and whatnot. And then when I was finishing my sermon today, and actually, this is a good sermon. I mean, I've been preaching for 30 years now, and this is a good sermon. This is one of my better sermons. But something told me to go look at your Facebook page, to look at the photos, to look at the things that you write about yourselves. And what I saw was, I saw a lot of people with children who want the best for them. I saw a lot of people who want the best for their society. They want the best for us all. I didn't know at the time, because I wasn't paying attention enough, that the Elmhurst Choir was going to be here, the Elmhurst Chancel Choir. But if I had, it would have been encouragement even more to toss the sermon that I had written. Because I think the word that is appropriate today is a word that is to the heart of people who feel as if they are living through a moment in which all that it seems we have accomplished means nothing. When it seems that all that we have done as a society to make room and place for us all is just trammeled by the gears of power and by the gears of indulgence and by the gears of privilege, so that at the end of the day, none of it really matters. Because the same folk who were powerful yesterday are going to be powerful today. And as I looked at that and thought about it, one of the things I got caught up with is that, whether or not you all noticed it or not, I'm a middle-aged black guy, right? Really, I'm a middle-aged black guy if you didn't notice it. Now, one of the things about that descriptor means that I have become very jaded in terms of my expectations and hopes for our society and for its political system. I'm used to being heartbroken. I've become so used to having my hopes dashed that For me, it's just a normal, everyday routine. And it wasn't until I stepped back for a moment and I read those words once again, there are going to be some people who are hurting today, that I remembered what it felt like when Michael Brown laid in the middle of the street for 5 hours, and how I was so caught up in my emotion I couldn't even breathe, because there it was in front of everyone to see. And yet no one was held to account. I can remember when Trayvon Martin was killed. And I can remember how it is that I felt that once again I couldn't breathe, because the anger, the hurt, the feeling that I didn't matter, that no one that looked like me mattered. I said, there are a lot of women who are feeling that way today. There are a lot of mothers who are feeling that way about their daughters. There are a lot of young women who are in college today who are feeling that way, as if none of that matters, as if they don't matter. And I stepped back for a moment and I said that I know exactly how that feels, that you can feel your heart clenching in your chest, that you can feel your breath getting short, because surely this time, someone will be held account, and justice will finally begin to seem as if it is possible. And then you'll just have a bunch of old men laughing at you because you were a fool for believing that in the first place. So I came to bring a different kind of word this morning. And what that word is that even though your heart may be feeling clenched and your breath may be feeling short, even though you may be thinking with terror of what it means to send your daughter back to school, even though some of you young women will be wondering about those knuckleheads on your campus who are emboldened and were idiots in the first place, but now they have authorization to do so, and even you young men who wonder, is there any way to be a man and not be an asshole? Even when you're in the midst of wondering that, there is a different way. There is a different way, and we as the people of God know that there is a different way. Because the story of our journey, the story of our hope, is a world in which leaders are not always callous, petty tyrants. The story of our faith, the story of our people, is about a God who cares about everyone and not just those who have power. The story of our faith is a faith of a God who cares about the least of these, and who gives us a way of thinking about and caring about and loving and upholding those who are weaker than us. But more importantly, it gives us a way to understand how it is our duty to live in ways that give witness to that God. Our scripture this morning is one that comes from the time when the children of Israel were in Babylon as captives. Now, the thing I want you to notice in the text today is that they were a lot like us. And what I mean by they were a lot like us, these were people of privilege, and these were people of power. But at the end of the day, their privilege and their power doesn't mean anything, because they live under the rule of Nebuchadnezzar. So in many of the same ways, the values that we hold dear, the desire to esteem every one of God's children, the desire for our daughters to understand that they are just as important as our sons, and for our sons to understand that our daughters are as crucial and significant to God as they ever will be. That even though we hold these values, we live in a world that our privilege means nothing, at least for now. And so part of what we can do is that we can live in fear, or we can live in anger. We can disengage. One of the things that I've often said is that I fight every single morning when I get up, because I have the privilege of being the president of a seminary, and I have cultural power and economic power, is I can look at those who mean me ill and those who mean us ill, and I can say, to hell with them. I won't have anything to do with them. But that's not God's way. God's way is not to tell anyone to hell with you. God's way is to say there is room for us all. So we must live and work in ways as if there is room for us all. And that's what the people of Israel in Babylon were challenged to do. Because they could have sat on their privilege, right? And they could have just decided that you can't make me do anything. I have enough money, I have enough esteem, I have enough, and I mean, believe me, I know how that feels. Like I said, I'm a middle-aged guy, middle-aged black guy, and I live in the South Shore neighborhood on 67th and Oglesby, and anybody who knows the geography of Chicago knows that that means I can say to hell with everybody, and I don't have to worry about none of y'all. But so we can do that. But God tells us something different. God says that we must invest in making this society what it ought to be. That it's up to us to invest, to make this a society where everyone is safe. It's up to us to make this a society where when we send our sons and daughters off to high school, when we send our sons and daughters off to college, they learn how to be better human beings and not how to be afraid of other human beings. It is up to us, and the reason why it's up to us is because we have something else, a truth that we know. And the truth that we know is that the God of the universe, the God who created this world in which we live, is a God who wishes well for everyone. Not just some, but for everyone. And it is through our living, through our investing to make a better future, through our having sons and having daughters who continue to have hope, who continue to dream about a different day, a day that can be better, that we live into our vocation. Because God doesn't just call us to flourish for ourselves, He calls us to flourish because we are a living witness that there is another way. That cruelty and malice, that toxic male patriarchy, that ethnocentrism are, in the end of the day, the greatest lie that has ever been told about who we are as human beings. We know that there is a different way, and God calls us to live in a different way. I know this is a hard day. Believe me, I do. I understand it's a hard day, and I understand that many of you are wondering. Many of you are wondering if at the end of the day you will spend the rest of your life having to look at a leering idiot sitting on the Supreme Court and wondering, and sort of as a symbol that goodness lost this time, that right lost this time. I know some of you are wondering, is that what I'm going to have to look at for the rest of my life? Some of you are wondering, am I going to have to deal with that sneering cabal of old, powerful men? Because that's who they always are, right? They're old, powerful men. Every now and then you'll see a woman sprinkled in, but it's always old, powerful men. Am I going to have to look at them for the rest of my lives thinking that they are a law unto itself? Or does God hold something else? And I just stopped by here this morning to tell you that God needs you, each and every one of you, to live in ways that demonstrate that that is a lie. God needs you to live in ways that values every single human being, that embraces and holds dear all of those who have been violated, all of those who have been hurt and harmed, all of those who have found themselves going up the rough side of the mountain. God needs each and every one of you to hold them and hold them so tightly that you give a witness that they are more precious to God than anything else on the face of this earth. I'm going to close simply by saying that we are people who know a different way. We are people who've been given the courage to live in a different way. So whatever your walk in life, whatever your place, live your life as a witness to the God who means for things to be different. Live your life as a witness to God who wants things to be different. And if you do that enough, then that clenched heart that you feel right now, that shortness of breath, because the anger is so great, that feeling of fear and hopelessness will begin to fade, because the only way that it fades is if you live as if evil does not have the final victory. If you live as a people of the resurrection, that God's goodness and hope will indeed have the final word, then not only will your heart be encouraged, but you will be able to encourage the heart of someone else. And when you gather together as a people whose hearts are encouraged and been made strong by the hope that is our faith, we will then be able to say that this world has been made new, and God has called us, and we were a part of it. I ask you blessings. I offer you my sincerest thanks. And in the last word that I can say, I'm going to speak directly to all of the young people who are here today. This world can be different. This world can be different. It can be different, and there are many of us who are here working hard, but we need for you all to believe in the depths of your heart that this world can be different, and that it can be a place where all of you can flourish, all of you can feel wholeness, and all of you can walk as sisters and brothers into the glorious new day that God has for us all. Amen.